Here we go. So let us okay. Okay. So this the derivation part I said no, of course I have to discuss of course. Uh, so after the class I'll take the screenshot and I'll share the derivation of filters as well as amplifiers. That is for a phase shift oscillator that I'll share it after the class. Okay, so oscillator amplitude stabilization we discussed. Okay, so using R5 and R6, how to further control um, the amplitude of the amplifier because we have to control the amplitude also. So one thing is we control the frequency. The other thing is we control the need to control the amplitude of the oscillator because we should get a variable amplitude from the oscillator, not always a fixed oscillating amplitude. So with that intention, we make use of the oscillator amplitude stabilization circuit. Okay, I think this was discussed. We discussed numerical problems also, including selection of a uh, diode for the oscillatory amplitude stabilization circuit. Okay, fine. So this will continue. Okay, just a second. Need to open. Here we go. Okay. Yes. Okay. So next type of oscillator circuit what we discussed, which makes use of op amp. Okay. So because ultimately all these oscillators we can implement using even the transistor also. BJT transistor also that is possible. But op amp has its own advantages compared to uh, BJT amplifier or any other type of amplifier. Okay, so Wayne bridge oscillator. Of course, I think you discussed this. You studied Wayne bridge oscillator in your measurement course. That is using passive components. Okay, so but here we are making use of a active component. That is op amp as an amplifier. Okay, okay. So I think you are able to log in, right? Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so Wayne bridge oscillator. So it is basically it's a AC bridge. What is AC bridge? Is the input voltage to the bridge is a AC voltage. So in which balance is obtained when the supply voltage has a particular frequency. Okay, so depending on the component used, the supply voltage of a particular frequency, the bridge is said to be balanced. So, okay, let us look into the circuit directly. Let us jump to the circuit. Okay, here to fit the circuit to the page. I hope this is visible, guys. No, this may be too small. Just a second. Just a second. Let me put it to slightly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this will be little. This should be okay. This should be yes. Wayne bridge oscillator. Okay. This in this Wayne bridge oscillator. Of course, there are four arms, just like our normal bridge circuitry. Okay, so there will be four arms in the bridge. Okay, so when the voltage across this network is equal to this network, the bridge is said to be balanced. The bridge is said to be balanced, which we are going to detect using a voltage measuring voltage indicator or using a null indicator. It's also called as a null indicator. Okay, so this we have discussed in our measurement course. In this case, we make use of a op amp as a active component. So the feedback network, what you say, and okay, what is the configuration of the op amp? That's very important here, because we are applying input to both the the non-inverting input as well as a inverting input. So the inverting input, as you can see, is the voltage which appears across R4. Okay, that is VR4. VR4 is the voltage applied to the inverting input terminal, and the voltage at the non-inverting input terminal is due to the voltage across the feedback network. Okay, so there are two feedback networks. One is using this R1C1 combination, and another one is R2C2 combination. R1C1 is a series network. R2C2 is a parallel network. Okay, guess what is the effect of this? When resistance and capacitance are in parallel, or when resistance and capacitance are in a series, okay, they act as a phase lag and phase lead network depending on the position of the resistor and the capacitor. Hold on a second. Yeah. Okay, so based on the position of resistor and capacitor, the network characteristics changes. It can be a phase lag network or it can be a phase lead network. In this case, the feedback is given to, as you can see, this is the junction which is given to the non-inverting input terminal. So the voltage across this feedback network, that means this point to ground, this point to ground, this is the point. Okay, so whatever the voltage which appears across here is fed as a voltage to the input voltage to non-inverting input terminal. Okay, so because of this, of course, there's a differential amplifier, no doubt, but since the feedback is given to non-inverting input terminal, this stage is called as a non-inverting amplifier. There is op amp stage, and this stage, which is the combination of resistor and capacitor, is called as a feedback circuit or feedback network. Yes, okay. So that's how it is. So this will be the always, this point is always point to be discussed. Confusing maybe, because we are applying voltage to both the inverting as well as non-inverting. Why it is a non-inverting amplifier? Because feedback is, of course, here also the feedback is given to inverting amplifier, no doubt. Okay, but this resistor and capacitor combination, which is the feedback network given to non-inverting amplifier. So this network is configured as a, considered as a non-inverting amplifier. Okay, so the voltage, output voltage appears across the op amp terminal. Just hold on a second. Yes. Okay, output voltage appears across the op amp terminal, which is fed back as input to the non-inverting input terminal of a op amp. So because of this, output voltage is in sync with the input voltage. That is, for the positive cycle of the input output voltage, we get the positive cycle of the input voltage. Because it is a non-inverting amplifier, for positive cycle of the feedback net voltage, output voltage is also positive. That's all. Okay. This is about the circuit component arrangement. Okay, so in this case, the resistor and capacitive components constitute the Wien bridge. Okay, just like in our regular passive component based Wien bridge. So this resistor and capacitor combination form the the what you call Wien bridge part. Okay, so in one arm there is a resistor and capacitor in parallel. In another arm, resistor and capacitor is in series. Okay, so this is R2 C2, and in this one is R1 C1. So the output of the bridge is applied as a input to the op amp non-inverting input terminals. So the output provides the AC supply to the bridge. Okay, since it is a the AC voltage which appears at the output. Why it is AC voltage based? That's the obvious question. It is AC voltage because output of the op amp starts oscillating. Okay, see, we have understood this in the earlier classes, guys. When the differential voltage is very small, even if this is around 0.1 volts, in fact 0.01 volt also, output of the op-amp starts saturating. Output of the op-amp starts saturating. Okay, it is nothing but AC. This is nothing but a AC voltage. V naught. Okay, this V naught is applied as a feedback to the non-inverting input terminal as well as to the inverting input terminal. Okay, so hence it is a AC bridge. It is not a DC. It is a AC bridge. Okay, because AC bridge does not mean that we are applying input as AC. Since output is AC, which is fed back as input, a part of the output is fed back as input, it is considered as a AC bridge. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So another AC bridge. Okay, fine. Looking at the circuit is that op-amp together with resistor R3 and R4 is a non-inverting amplifier. Yes, definitely, because if you see this circuit, with R3 and R4, it acts as a non-inverting amplifier. Because assume that there is a voltage applied here. There is a voltage applied to the non-inverting input terminal, and the inverting input terminal is connected to ground through R3 and R4. It is a non-inverting amplifier. Definitely. Yes. Okay. So fine. So the output voltage of the amplifier is attenuated, but not phase shifted by the feedback network. Okay, fine. And the feedback voltage is amplified to produce the output. Because what happens in this case is because of the presence of capacitor, because of the presence of this capacitor network, output voltage, which is the saturation voltage, which is the saturation. What is the saturation voltage? Is it always saturates between the extreme points. For example, if this is plus 15 volts VCC and minus VE is minus 15 volts, then this will be plus 14 volts. That is positive saturation, and negative saturation is minus 14 volts. Okay, so because it is saturating, the voltage is applied as a feedback to the input to the non-inverting input terminal. This resistor and capacitor network result in attenuation of the output voltage. Because what is attenuation, guys? For example, let us say we are applying a larger input voltage, which is attenuated by the feedback network, and hence resulting input voltage will be a smaller voltage. Okay, of the same frequency, and same phase shift or same phase, but it is a attenuated voltage. This is the feedback voltage, and this is the output voltage. The reason for that is wherever there is a resistor and a capacitor network. Okay, because what is the role of a resistor? Is resistor will limit the current. It was very simple reason. And this capacitor, though it acts as a AC short, it will attenuate the not attenuate, sorry, this will modify the AC voltage. See, that is whenever we apply AC voltage to a capacitor, okay, though it acts as a AC short, it will allow the signal, but it will modify the signal. It will slightly modify it will distort the signal. It will slightly distort the signal. Because if you remember, the voltage obtained in our the ADC lab, there is BJT amplifier, not using crystal oscillator, but is using a push-pull amplifier. If you remember the push-pull amplifier output, which obtained on the oscilloscope, it was not a pure AC. It was like a distorted AC. Obviously, because the capacitor will distort the AC signal, especially it will distort the pure AC sinusoidal signal. Okay, it will distort the pure sinusoidal signal. Okay, and hence in this Wien bridge oscillator, the feedback network will attenuate the output voltage, but it will not phase shift the output voltage, nor it will not modify the frequency of the output voltage. Okay, so that's about. Okay, so the Barkhausen criteria for zero loop phase shift is fulfilled because this what happens if you observe this network, feedback network. If one network acts as a phase lead network, phase lead, the other network will act as a phase lag network. Okay, even if there is a slight phase shift introduced by one network, that will be nullified by the other network. So thereby total phase shift at this point is zero. Total phase shift is zero. Okay. So and moreover, it is a non-inverting amplifier. Amplifier will not introduce any phase shift. So phase shift by the amplifier is zero, and phase shift by the feedback network together is zero. So total phase shift is zero. And for Barkhausen criteria, one of the criteria is total phase shift across the network, that is amplifier as well as the feedback network, should be equal to 360 degree or 0 degree. 360 degree or 0 degree. Okay, so one of the condition of the Barkhausen criteria is satisfied. Yes, okay. So that's the no, that's the reason why it starts generating the oscillations. Okay. So in this case, by amplifier and the feedback network each having zero phase shift. Okay, feedback network has a zero phase shift because it has both phase lag and phase lead network. Both network will cancel the phase introduced by each other, and amplifier is a non-inverting amplifier, and phase shift is zero. So this occurs at a only one particular frequency, which is called as a resonant frequency of the bridge. Okay, fine. Because what is the reason for that is, in this network, if you see, we have the capacitor and resistor network, which acts as a phase lag and phase lead network. At some point, what happens is that when the frequency matches, okay, to the frequency of operation of the phase lag and phase lead network, then phase shift by both the network will be zero. I mean, phase shift in the sense each network will cancel the phase shift introduced by the other network. So total phase shift is zero. Total phase shift is zero. This happens for a particular frequency of the output voltage. This will happen for a particular frequency of the, because output is oscillating, so thereby it has a fixed frequency, of course. For that frequency, if the phase shift is zero by the feedback network, then total phase shift of the circuit is zero, because the non-inverting amplifier anyway introduces zero phase shift. So thereby total phase shift will be 0 degree. Okay, which is the reason for the generation of the oscillation. So that is called as a resonant frequency. So circuit is said to be resonating at that particular frequency. Okay. So all other frequencies, the bridge output and feedback voltages do not have the correct phase shift or amplitude relations to sustain the oscillation. Okay. In other frequencies, what will happen is the phase shift by the feedback network will be other than, it will not be equal to zero for other frequencies. So phase shift will not be equal to 0 degree. If phase shift is not equal to 0 degree or 360 degree, one of the condition of the Barkhausen criteria fails, and hence circuit will not be able to generate the oscillations. Okay, so oscillations criteria will fail. Circuit will fail to generate the oscillations. Okay. Yes. Okay. Analysis of the. Okay, this again. This derivation is in the appendix of the Ramakant Gaikwad book. After the class, I'll share the derivation pages that I'll discuss in the next class. Okay. So bridge circuit reveals that that balance condition is attained when the two equations are satisfied, fulfilled. Okay. There is R3 by R4 is equal to R1 by R2 plus C2 by C1. This, if you observe this, resistive networks, R3 by R4, because this is the feedback network for the non-inverting amplifier. For a non-inverting amplifier, what is the gain of the non-inverting amplifier? Yes, it is 1 plus R3 by R4, gain of a non-inverting amplifier. Okay, so this R3 and R4 is the one arm of the bridge. Okay, what is the other arm of a bridge, guys? Other arm is nothing but C2, C3. Sorry, C2, R2. Sorry, another arm is C1, R1. Another arm is the feedback network. Okay, so this connecting junction. Okay, fine. So for a balance condition, the requirement is that the ratio of R3 R4 should be equal to R1 by R2 plus C2 by C1. Because if you see this R1 R2, okay, this R1 R2, in fact, they are the series. Of course, it's not a series resistance, but considering the fact that this current is very small, because we have discussed many times. This maximum base current will be base current maximum will be approximately 500 nanoamperes. 500 nanoamperes. Compared to the current flowing in this network, this current can be approximated to zero. It's very small current. So in that sense, this R1 and R2 can be visualized as a series resistance. What about this C1 and C2, guys? C1 and C2 cannot be considered as a series capacitor because of the resistors. Okay, and hence the relation will be that R3 by R4. That means the resistance in this arm of the bridge, okay, is equal to ratio of resistance of the opposite arm of the bridge, and ratio of capacitance connected in the other arm of the bridge. Okay, that's how it is. Because derivation part I'll share. At this point, the derivation is not discussed here. So R3 by R1 is equal to R1 by R2 plus C2 by C1. Okay. So omega 2 pi f is nothing but equal to omega. Omega is given as 1 by square root of R1 C1 R2 C2. Okay. So for this frequency f, the bridge can be balanced, in which case the R1 R2 is equal to R. There is single resistance is selected for both the R1 and R2. Similarly for capacitor also, equal value of capacitor is designed or selected. Okay. So from this we can simplify it as f is equal to the frequency of oscillation is 1 by 2 pi RC, and R3 should be equal to twice R4 because even if you select that the condition is that since it is a non-inverting amplifier, we know that non-inverting amplifier gain will always be greater than the gain of the inverting amplifier. That is 1 plus R3 by R4. Okay, so in this case, if R3 is selected as twice R4, okay, 1 plus 2 R4 divided by R4, R4 cancels. So gain of the amplifier, non-inverting amplifier is 3. Okay, so that we get it as 1 plus R3 by R4 is equal to 3. Gain is equal to 3. Gain of the amplifier is 3. Okay, so the feedback network attenuates the amplifier output by a factor of 3. Okay, since the attenuation factor by the feedback network is 3, the gain of the amplifier should be at least equal to 3. Okay, so the non-inverting amplifier must have a minimum gain of 3 to sustain the oscillation. Okay, so the feedback network, if you observe this network, feedback network generates a attenuation factor of 3. Okay, because what is attenuation factor? That is 1 by beta. 1 by beta is equal to 3. Okay, so the closed loop voltage gain is A into 1 by beta is equal to 3. Okay, 1 by beta is 3. 1 by 3. So the gain of the non-inverting amplifier, if it is at least equal to 3, then A beta will be equal to 1. That is 3 cancels, it will be equal to 1. If the voltage gain is less than 3, then the closed loop gain A beta will be less than 1, and hence the one of the condition for the oscillation will fail. Okay, there is closed loop gain 1 is should be greater than or equal to 1. If that condition fails, the oscillator will not result in any oscillations. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, so that's the condition for the oscillations. Okay, what is the design procedure? So first, design the non-inverting amplifier to generate a gain of have a gain of 3. Okay, then design R1 and R2, which is made equal to R4. Why it is R4 is because if you observe this, this circuit, R4 is the resistance which is connected to ground. Okay, so because of this, whatever the voltage which appears across R4, VR4 will be applied to the inverting amplifier, and hence R1 and R2 is made equal to R4, which is equal to R, Okay, so that we can find out the frequency as 1 by 2 pi CR. Okay, out of CR, R is determined from this assumption condition. Okay, for a given frequency, of operation. Okay, next is selection of capacitor. Okay, so for a bi-equity op amp, we have to select capacitance first. Okay, which has to be very large than stay capacitance. Because as I said, stay capacitance we are not discussing as part of the course, so I can't comment more on stay capacitance. Okay, so for any op amp, there will be what is known as a stay capacitance, represented as CS. So this capacitor, external capacitor, whatever we select for the given amplifier design based on op amp, the capacitor selection, either C1, C2, whatever it is, should be greater than this stay capacitance. Okay, there is a reason for that, but we'll not go to that discussion anyway. So for a bi-FET op-amp, the capacitance value, whatever we select, should be greater than stay capacitance, and the design should start with the selection of a capacitance for a bi-FET op-amp. For a BJT based op-amp, we can start with the selection of the resistor first. From that, you can select the capacitor value. For a bi-FET op-amp, select capacitor first. From that, select the value of design the value of resistance. Okay, using the formula F is equal to 1 by 2 pi RC. Okay, so if C is known, R can be calculated. If R is known, C can be calculated. That's all. Okay, for a given value of frequency, that's very important. Okay, so if the frequency is unknown, not possible. Okay, so for a bi-FET op-amp design example, plus or minus 12 volt the biasing voltage. Okay, so Wien Bridge oscillator must have a frequency of output frequency of 15 kilohertz. So as the the author has clearly suggested, bi-FET op-amp, first we have to start with the capacitor value. Okay, we cannot start with R and then arrive at C. Not possible. Okay, because for a bi-FET op-amp, the capacitance value should be greater than stay capacitance. Who will tell us the stay capacitance? The data sheet of the bi-FET op-amp as the details of the stay capacitance value. Just a second, I'll check the bi-FET op-amp for data sheet. I have one bi-FET op-amp example, number here. I'll show you that, I'll take that, I'll tell you the stay capacitance value. Just hold on a second. I have not scanned this. I'll scan it and I'll share it after the class. Because for a design purpose, we should know the stay capacity, the stay capacitance value of a given op-amp. This David Ebel book has the data sheet in the the in the appendix. Yes, okay. Just a second. Stay capacitance value for common voltage injection ratio. Okay, input offset voltage. Just hold on a second. Temperature, power dissipation, stay capacitance, input gas current, common mode rejection ratio, supply current, slew rate. Okay, stay capacitance value. And this LM, okay, LM715. Let me check whether any output resistance, supply current, slew rate, input offset current, output. Okay, yes, in this data sheet, I'm not able to. Okay, this stay capacitance value is not given in this stay capacitance data sheet. The bi-FET based op-amp example is usually it is represented as capital B, small I, FET, bi-FET op-amp. Okay, so example type of example is LM 353. This data sheet also I'll share with you guys. You can see in this data sheet, lot of details are given about the this op-amp. So based on that, we can design the values of a capacitor and the resistances. Okay, yes, I couldn't see the okay, so capacitance value is not given. Okay, this one of the because in this problem, the author has not specified the name of the bi-FET op-amp. So we can start with the selection of the capacitor. There is 0.01 microfarad. Okay. Yeah. So if C value is known, so for a given frequency, so frequency was equal to 15 kilohertz. So for 15 kilohertz, R value can be found out as 1.06 kilo. Okay. So what standard value? Same condition is, we always have to select the standard value in such a way that it should be closer to the calculated value. Okay, and there are other factors to be considered also, as we have discussed many times in our earlier discussion. So the value of the resistance is 1.06 kilo ohm. Okay, it is somewhere around somewhere here. Okay, kilo ohm range 1.06 kilo ohm, 1.06 kilo ohm. So the closer value is 1 kilo ohm, okay, rather than 1.1 kilo ohm. So select R as 1 kilo ohm, which is a standard value. So R1 R2 is 1 kilo ohm, R4 is equal to R2, which is again 1 kilo ohm. This is equal to R4. Okay. So R4, what about R3? R3 should be twice the R4, so that the gain of the non-inverting amplifier should be equal to 3. So the R3 should be equal to 2 kilo ohms. Okay, fine. 2 kilo ohm, is it a standard value? If you see this, the standard value table, in fact 2 kilo ohm is a standard value. Okay, fine. What happens if 2 kilo ohm is selected? Okay, let's observe this. We could have directly used 2 kilo ohm standard value, uh, since 2 kilo ohm is a standard value, we could have taken 2 kilo ohm as a standard value. But if 2 kilo ohm is chosen, the voltage gain, which is given as 1 plus R3 by R4, R3 by R4, will guarantee that voltage gain is equal to 3. But for sustained oscillation, A beta should be greater than or equal to 1. Okay. So 1 by beta is 1 by 3. So in this case, beta is 1 by 3. So 1 by 3 into 3. So let me write somewhere. Let me write somewhere here. Okay. So A beta, okay, should be greater than or equal to 1. That means beta is 1 by 3. Beta is 1 by 3, the gain of the feedback network. So 1 by 3 into 3, it will make sure that it is equal to 1. But this should be greater than, slightly greater than 1. In that case, 2 kilo ohm may not be sufficient. It is a trial and error method, of course. So take 2 kilo ohm, take it. If it results in a sustained oscillations, fine. Okay. If not, then we have to raise the value of R3. Okay. So according to the standard resistor table, the next standard higher standard value is 2.2 kilo ohms. Okay. So select 2.2 kilo ohm for the R3, for the resistor R3. Yeah, here we go. Yes, R3. So that to make sure that voltage gain is always greater than or equal to 3, at least 3. Should be greater than 3, of course. But in most of the case, because of the losses, because of the loss in the circuit, in the resistance power dissipation in the circuit, the gain will always be less than 3. So in that case, better to select R3 such that voltage gain is greater than 3, always greater than 3. Okay, so that is the condition for the. Maybe we can choose a potentiometer also. That's also possible for the R3. The better method is choose a potentiometer such that we can vary slightly higher, so that we can achieve voltage gain greater than R3. Sorry, 3. Voltage gain greater than 3. Okay, what about the amplitude stabilization for the Wien bridge oscillator? Okay, because in this case, if you observe the Wien bridge oscillator circuit, this network, this feedback network is a fixed network. These are all fixed resistors, so there is no possibility for the amplitude stabilization, because capacitor cannot be divided. Capacitor, just like a resistor, single resistor can be divided into two resistors, two series resistors. That cannot be done for the capacitors. Okay, so thereby what is required, what is the requirement is that that the resistor has to be divided. Okay, so when the resistor has to be divided, which resistor has to be divided? Okay, the only possibility is the feedback network. If you observe this feedback network, R3 and R4, we can play only with these two, R3 and R4, because we can control. Okay, the another reason is that what is amplitude stabilization is this voltage variation. Okay, this amplitude uh, control, amplitude control. Okay, so for this amplitude control, this gain has to be adjusted, gain of this amplifier. Okay, so what is the gain of this amplifier? 1 plus R3 by R4, 1 plus R3 by R4, and hence we have to control the value of this R3 and R4 such that we can control the voltage of amplitude of the output voltage. Yes, okay. So let us look into this this amplitude stabilization circuit. This amplitude stabilization circuit as okay, this the actual circuit is something like this, plus minus. So this is the feedback network R3 and R4, which was connected to ground. So the inverting and input was given from this junction. Okay, so this was equal to, this was R3 and this was R4. This R3 is now divided into two resistors R5 and R6. Okay, and across this R5, two pair of diodes are connected, similar to RC phase shift oscillator amplitude stabilization. So these diodes D1, D2 pair and D3, D4 pair helps in bypassing R5, thereby reducing the value of R3. If R3 is reduced, the gain of the amplifier can be reduced. Okay, 1 plus R3 by R4. This R3 is now made of R5 plus R6. R5 plus R6. Okay. If output voltage is very large, if the output voltage becomes very large, these diodes will be forward biased. When these diodes will be forward biased, the voltage across the diode is limited. Because of that, R5 is bypassed. When R5 reduces, the gain of the amplifier reduces. The gain of the amplifier reduces. Okay, so that's the basic idea of the amplitude stabilization of a Wien bridge oscillator. Okay, so it's exactly same way as the phase shift. It's the same as that of the RC phase shift oscillator, which we discussed in little detail. So there are two methods. One method is using resistor and diode combination. It's a simple method. It's quite straightforward method. There is another method of amplitude stabilization. Okay, which makes use of field effect transistors. Okay, this how does the circuit works? This circuit looks a little complex, of course. So this, see, normal circuit has only this circuit, this network, this component, that is R3 and R4. Okay. Now this output voltage of the Wien bridge oscillator, whatever we get here, output voltage is divided using R3 and R4. A part of the output voltage is fed back as a input voltage to inverting input terminal. Okay. Another method is to make use of this, this FET, field effect transistor, and this output voltage is fed as a input voltage to the field effect transistor through resistor R5 and diode D1. Okay, yes, okay. Just hold on a second and take the screenshot of the attendance, because I need to update this. 51 on the roll today. So I have to make sure whether it has taken the screenshot. Okay. Here. Okay. Guess how does this circuit works? So output voltage, one network is R3 and R4, which divides the output voltage and feeds as a input voltage to inverting input terminal. Another path for the output current to flow is this network through R5. So during the positive cycle, when the output voltage is positive, diode D1 will be forward biased. When the diode D1 is forward biased, this is the gate terminal of the transistor, this is the drain, and this is the source. Let me write drain properly. So this is the drain terminal and this is the source terminal. Across gate and source, okay, there exists a VGS, sorry, gate to source voltage. The question here is, why this diode D1? Diode D1 act as a rectifier. Diode D1 act as a rectifier. The output voltage, which is the AC, is converted into DC using the diode D1 rectifier, and that is applied as a gate voltage to this FET transistor Q1. FET transistor Q1. Okay. So because of this, what happens is that when the transistor Q1 is biased, okay, then the output voltage is stored in capacitor C3, which is fed back as a voltage to the inverting input terminal. Okay, so now from this network there are two potential at this junction. One is due to voltage across R4 and another due to the conduction state of the FET, which provides the voltage to the capacitor, the current to the capacitor, which charges to the output voltage whenever FET is forward biased, or whenever the FET is turned on, whenever it is in the on condition. So the voltage across the capacitor is fed back as a voltage to the inverting input terminal. Okay. Yes, if you observe this network more closely, we have other components also. Okay, R7. This R7 helps in generating voltage across the gate to source voltage, because for a FET transistor, we have to apply the gate voltage, okay, VGS. We have to apply VGS. So this is the gate terminal, this is the drain terminal, and this is the source terminal. Okay, so we have to apply the voltage, and this capacitor C4 helps in filtering the output voltage, because it acts as a rectifier. Diode D1 acts as is the rectifier circuit, which is output of this diode D1 is is a pulsating voltage to smooth out this pulsating voltage from the rectifiers, D1 rectifier. This capacitor C4 is used. Okay, so voltage across D1 is obtained using a resistor R6. Okay, so this is the other components of the network. Okay, because in this case, if you see, so in this case, the capacitor C, if you see this, circuit. Okay, okay, so they are explaining here. They are explaining the first circuit. Okay, this is explanation which is similar to the RC phase shift oscillator. Okay, for the second circuit using a FET amplifier. Okay, so the output voltage is stabilized by using you know the FET network, and this is stabilized to a desired value by using the various components. So output amplitude is stabilized. Amplifier, okay, so the output voltage by reducing the amplifier gain when the output amplitude is greater than the desired level. Okay, so whenever it reaches a particular level, the output amplitude will be reduced by controlling the gain of the amplifier. Okay, so the channel resistance of the P channel, okay, field effect transistor is in parallel with the resistance R4 for alternating voltages. Okay, fine. This what does it mean? Okay, let's observe here. Observe this network. This FET has a channel. Yes, if you see this, FET, field effect transistor. Of course, this you have studied in your ADC course also. So there is a what is known as a in a field effect transistor. There is a source, terminal, drain terminal. There is junctions. What you call um, regions, source region, drain region. Between source and drain there is a channel. Okay, so this region is the channel. Okay, so above that we have the gate terminal. Above that we have the gate terminal. So this is the gate, this is the drain, and this is the source. Okay, it's a P channel MOSFET. Okay, PMOS. So P channel MOSFET means the channel type is P. If channel type is P, then this source and drain is also of P material, P plus material. What about the substrate? Substrate is of type N. Substrate is of type N. Okay. The reverse is true for a N channel MOSFET, NMOS. In case of NMOS, the source and drain and the channel will be N type. Substrate will be P type. Substrate will be P type. Okay, fine. Now, what happens is that whenever this FET turns on, this field effect transistor turns on because of the gate to source voltage. Okay. The question here is, how do we identify whether this FET is a P type or N type? P type. Can anybody help me, guys? How to identify this FET as a P type or a N type FET from this symbol? How to identify? Is anybody? How to identify the what you call MOSFET as a P type or a N type MOSFET? Yes, for example, in transistor also, BJT transistor also, how to identify the transistor as a N type or P type? NPN transistor or PNP transistor? How to identify? PNP transistor. Yes, anybody in the class, guys? How to identify the transistor as a, for example, BJT transistor as a NPN transistor or PNP transistor. For a FET, how to identify it as a PMOS or a NMOS? Okay. Yes, for a the MOSFET, this arrow indicates the path of the current. Okay, if the arrow is towards the, if channel type is P, then this source and drain and the channel will be P type. Substrate will be P type. Okay, if the arrow is towards the towards the transistor, if the arrow symbol is like this, that means channel is a p-type channel. If arrow is away from the symbol, if it is away from the channel, that means it is a p-type channel. Okay, similarly for a bipolar transistor, if the arrow is like this, that means it is a PNP transistor. If the arrow is something like this, sorry, it is a, if arrow is like this, it is a NPN transistor. If arrow is towards the base terminal, it is a PNP transistor. Okay, because this arrow indicates the N region. This arrow indicates the N region. Okay, so thereby what happens is that whenever this FET transistor turns on, this channel starts conducting. There is a FET starts conducting. There is a current flow from drain to source. Okay, I think I can pick another color, some contrasting color. Okay, so the current flow is from drain to source through the channel. Okay, which is called as ID, drain current ID. This channel this channel as a, because it is a conducting region, this channel as a resistance represented as RD, channel resistance. This resistance now comes in parallel with the resistor R4. Why? Because it is conducting. This channel as a resistance. This resistance is now in parallel with the resistance R4, which ultimately affect the resistance R4, thereby modifying the voltage gain of the amplifier. Okay, so that is the logic. Okay, so that's why if it is used. Maybe we could have used a BJT, but BJT does not has a channel, and there is no question of a channel resistance in a BJT. Okay, yeah. So thereby, so the channel resistance of the P-channel field effect transistor PMOS, that is transistor Q1, is in parallel with the resistance R4 for alternating voltages. Alternating voltages means as the voltage changes, the conduction of the FET changes, and hence the channel resistance changes. In turn, the voltage gain of the amplifier also changes. So capacitor C3 ensures that Q1 has no effect on the DC bias condition of the circuit. Okay, this capacitor C3, observe this C3 helps in blocking the DC current flowing into this network. Okay, so it acts as the AC short, it stores the charges, so thereby it will allow only AC current, it will block the DC current. Okay, so thereby the current in this network acts, suppose and hence it is a pure AC current, not the DC current. Okay, because it's a AC amplifier, so the AC amplifier operation should not be affected by the DC current. Okay, so where the DC current is coming from? It is coming from because of the rectifier circuit built using the diode D1. Okay, so that is the purpose of capacitor C3. Capacitor C3. Okay. So the bias, I think this will, okay, yeah. So the bias voltage at FET gate is derived from the amplifier output. Okay, biasing voltage separate, instead of connecting a separate DC voltage, we can derive the biasing voltage from the output of the amplifier. So the output voltage is potentially divided across resistors, R5 and R6. And it is rectified by D1. Okay, so first potential division is using R5 and R6. So this will help in dividing the output voltage, which in turn rectified using the diode D1, which will turn on the FET transistor Q1. Thereby there exists a channel resistance. This resistance is RD, comes in parallel with resistor R4. Okay, so two resistors are in parallel. Okay, and hence effective resistance varies depending on the value of the channel resistance, which in turn depends on the biasing voltage VGS. Okay, so all these conditions, factors has to be considered. Okay, what about capacitor C4 base? So this helps in smoothing out the rectified output voltage, rectified waveform, to give a proper DC bias to the field effect transistors. Okay, so when the output amplitude is low, okay, VGS is low, and the FET drain resistance RT remains low. Okay, that means when the output voltage itself is very small. Okay, so if the output voltage is very small in terms of amplitude, okay, then this voltage divider is further small. Diode D1 rectifies the smaller voltage, and hence this transistor Q1 is not heavily biased. Then and hence channel formation is very small. Channel is width is very small, and hence resistance is also very smaller. Okay, this is for the smaller output voltage. Okay, so because of this, amplifier output amplifier gain is given as, so this channel resistance is RD, which appears across R4. Okay, so the voltage gain of the amplifier is, so initially what is the voltage gain of the amplifier is R3 plus R4 divided by R4. This is the actual voltage gain of the amplifier in the absence of the FET network. Okay, when FET network comes into picture, this R4 as a parallel resistance RD, as a parallel resistance RD. Okay, so depending on the variation of RD, this R4 factor varies. Okay, for example, if RD is very small, very small, the equivalent resistance decreases, voltage gain increases. Voltage gain increases. When will be RD small, guys? When the RD will be small, when the output is smaller, when V0 is smaller, RD is small, voltage gain increases. Okay, when V0 is very high, when voltage output voltage is very high, RD increases. When channel resistance, sorry, channel resistance, a second, um, it's just a second. I don't know why that. Okay, so channel resistance is very small. Sorry, when the output voltage increases, channel resistance increases. When channel resistance increases, what happens to this effective network is, this effective resistance increases. As effective resistance R4 parallel RD increases, voltage gain decreases. Very simple. Okay, so that's the basic principle of operation of the this stabilization network. Okay, so that is explained here. So the low value of RD keeps voltage gain at maximum. Why? Because low value of RD reduces this denominator component. When this denominator decreases, voltage gain increases. Okay, so that's what basically we want. When V0 becomes very high, VGS increases. That will force the FET to turn on. There is heavily biasing the transistor, so it increases the channel resistance. When channel resistance increases, voltage gain reduces, and hence output amplitudes oscillating is prevented. Okay, when the output tries to oscillate at a very high value, that is prevented by reducing the gain of the amplifier, which in turn reduces the output voltage. That means output voltage is kept under a under a under a constant value, under a standard stabilized value. Okay, so this amplitude stabilization circuit requires knowledge of the FET channel resistance and how it is affected by the gate source biasing voltage. Okay, so for example, there is one example given here, guys. So circuit, let us say for example, oscillate when FET channel resistance is 200 ohms at a supply gate to source voltage of 2 volts, and assume that the oscillator peak voltage is 5 volts. For example, oscillator output voltage is 5 volts. Then R5 and R6 should be selected to give VGS is equal to 2 volts. Okay, so that means R5 R6 should be selected such that gate to source voltage is 2 volts when peak to peak voltage is 5 volts. Okay, so thereby the VF, that is forward voltage drop of the diode, is such that the diode is forward bias, because it's very important. If the diode is not forward bias, then VGS cannot be generated, which cannot turn on the FET. Okay, so these can be fairly large resistors. Of course, it can be up to 100 kilo ohm resistance, because of the high input resistance of the field effect transistor gate. Okay, so capacitor C4 helps in smoothing out the off-air rectified by the diode D1. Okay, so C4 is discharged via resistor R7 during the time interval between peak of the output waveform. Okay, that means, let's observe this here. Whenever the output voltage changes the state, output voltage goes from positive to negative saturation and negative to positive saturation. This capacitor, which is helps in smoothing out the rectified output by the diode, has to change the state. It has to say, for example, during the positive cycle, the capacitor C4 charges. When during the negative cycle, capacitor C4 should discharge. For capacitor to discharge, it requires a resistance. R7 helps in discharging the capacitor C4 at a faster rate when the output voltage goes from positive cycle to negative cycle. That is the purpose of a resistor R7. Okay, so that is explained here. Okay, let's one more minute. Within a minute I'll close. Okay. Okay, so the value of C4 is calculated to allow 10% discharge during the during the 10% of the time period of the oscillatory circuit. So C3 is the coupling capacitor. So C3 helps in AC couple the FET transistor to the non-inverting amplifier. So the impedance of the oscillating frequency should be much smaller than the FET channel resistance. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that means the impedance of the oscillating circuit should be much lesser than the FET channel resistance. So R3 and R4 are determined from the previous numerical problem to give the amplifier gain of to give the required amplifier gain when RD is equal to 200 ohms. That means when the FET is selected as a channel resistance of 200 ohms, okay, the R3 and R4 should be such that it gives a required voltage gain of the amplifier. What is the required voltage gain of the amplifier gains? It should be AB voltage gain should be greater than 3. Okay, so that means R3 and R4 should be selected in such a way that voltage gain should be greater than 3. It's okay. So in the next class, I'll I'll discuss this concepts again, and then I'll go to the next topic. Okay. With this, I think we are very close to the end of the chapter. So last in the next class, guys, we'll quickly discuss these concepts, and we'll go to the next step. Yes, thank you. You're getting late to the next class. Okay. Thank you very much. See you guys. Take care. See you. Bye.